So we're back, all runners. We're continuing our football season throughout the month of October. The love story of the person we're reflecting on today might not be a household name to all, but his impact on his team is still felt today. Now, before there was Davante Adams, there was Donald Driver. He was one of the most successful wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers. He played for them from 1999 to 2012, and during that time, he was named to 5 Pro Bowls and even won a Super Bowl. After he retired, he was selected to the Packers Hall of Fame in 2017, probably because he's the Packers' all-time leader in receptions and receiving yards. Not bad for a 7th-round pick. Or maybe you know him as the winner of the 14th season of Dancing with the Stars. Either way, it's the perfect time to reminisce on his love story, one that may be a bit of an anomaly to the ones you might expect from an athlete. Y'all know what that means? Soon, you'll see. Now, this is I'll Tell You What, a weekly podcast that shares the weddings, marriages, and romances of Black figures throughout time. We bask on these relationships not to be messy, but to remind you of the passion in our past and to humanize the people we put on pedestals. Basically, it's all love. Black history. And I'm Ashley, your favorite raconteuse that tells you these stories every single week. Welcome to the 20th episode of I'll Tell You What. Well, before Donald Driver played for the Green Bay Packers, he met a beautiful dark-skinned woman named Bettina while at college at Alcorn State. He was in football practice while he saw this girl in band practice nearby. Wanting to know more about her, he asked around and learned that she had a boyfriend at Jackson State. That meant nothing to Donald because around that time, he had ended his engagement to his fiancée Alondra, which was someone he met his freshman year. Now, their relationship was good until it wasn't. According to Donald, it seemed like she would try to pick fights and get upset out of nowhere and try to antagonize him so they would get into arguments. That wasn't his thing, so when Alondra decided to go back to her boo from high school, he was hurt, but not too long. So later, Donald saw Tina and was like, "Hey, come here." And she kept walking. And then he hit her with the "you ain't cute no way" type of line. So fast forward to about a year or so later, he spotted her and she had this cute little haircut or whatever. He was like, "You looking kind of Halle Berry-ish." And she was like, "Bah, bah, bah." Actually, that didn't happen, but she did say thank you and asked him to help the dance team work out. He didn't want to, but he was like, if this is gonna mean I gotta be closer to her, then yeah. And it was a good thing that he did because it honestly led him to have a conversation with her about what she wanted in a relationship. She said, quote, "I want somebody who's going to love me for me." Then she actually was still with her boyfriend, but perhaps her sentiments echoed something that she was lacking in her current relationship. So Donald told her, quote, "You're looking at your man, I'm your guy." So then Tina broke up with her ex, and then Donald and Tina started going together. Young college love is just so sweet, right? Their relationship would be tested when Donald would ask Tina to do him a favor and hide this large duffel bag in her dorm. What do you think was in the bag? While Donald Driver was in a relationship with a woman that would eventually become his wife, Tina, he asked her to do something that compromised their relationship. He asked her to store this big duffel bag in her dorm room. Quote, "Don't open it, just put it in your dorm," he told her. She wanted to know what was in the bag because this man she'd been dating, a fellow student at Alcorn State, and also was a known student athlete and a Christian, wanted her to do what? She knew this wasn't what she thought it was, or was it? It was. Because you see, at that time, Donald was also a man of the streets. He began his entrepreneurial journey when he was in the 6th grade or sometime around then. During his childhood, his mom moved him and his 4 siblings around a lot. She didn't like to stay in one place for long. Once they were unhoused as the man she dated convinced her into thinking they had a house in another city when that wasn't the case. They would end up living in a U-Haul and under an overpass and really just all over. So money was obviously hard for them to come by. For a bit of his life, they would have the support of paternal figures, but eventually they would end up going on to live with Donald's dad's parents. So back at that time, when it was the six of them living in the Fifth Ward, Donald's mom worked long hours as a security guard. This meant Donald and his brothers and sisters were left alone a lot. A neighbor named JR would look after him, but JR was also a man about that life. Now, Donald and his older brother Moses began to work for him. First, they were the lookout. This not only gave them $50 a piece a night, but a chance for them to help their mom out too. Eventually, they became pharmaceutical reps themselves. They went from making $100 to about $1,200. And then Donald decided to expand his portfolio and learned how to acquire automobiles. He said that attracted him because of the, quote, adrenaline rush. He was almost caught by the police a few times, but had the mercy and grace of God protecting him. So he continued these extracurriculars even into his time at college. And that's what led him to ask Tina to hold this bag for him. She told him that he needed to choose either that life or her. What choice do you think he made? Donald Driver said to choose between his girlfriend or hashtag that life was not an easy decision to make. He had been a street entrepreneur for about a decade, if not a little more, and he hadn't been dating Tina that long. But he had an epiphany. Quote, the more I was with her, the more I realized how honest she was and how passionate. Tina didn't care how much money I had. All she cared about was loving me. And that's when I realized she was the one. His mind was made up, y'all. He was, quote, out of the gate because this man was truly in love. He said they began to date in July, and just 2 months later in September, he proposed to her. Actually, he proposed 2 times. The first time, he asked her with, quote, a ring that looked like it might have come from a Cracker Jack box. She basically told him, I'll marry you, but what is this, honey? Like, So, understanding her confusion and probably her dissatisfaction of the ring, Donald took his Pell Grant money to a pawn shop and found a 1-carat diamond ring. He proposed again while they were headed to Houston, but this time with the new ring. And of course, she said yes, again. Now, I believe the following year was 1999, the same year he declared for the draft. In the 7th round, with the 213th pick, the Green Bay Packers selected Donald Driver. He would be another weapon for then quarterback Brett Favre. Yes, that Brett Favre. While he moved to Wisconsin, his fiancée Tina stayed behind to wrap her final year at Alcorn. Now, your man is living out his dream. That's great, right? Yes. And no, Tina had a very valid concern regarding her fiance, now a professional football player. She told him, quote, you're going to leave me and find a white girl to marry. Which honestly, very real, right? Like, he told her he definitely would not do that, but she was concerned anyway, because truly, sometimes men say one thing and do another. Their long distance engagement was rough though. I mean, he missed her just as much as she missed him, so he would frequently fly her up to see him. And after his rookie season ended, they got married in March 2000, and she would then move up to Green Bay. Now, as with every married couple, married life for Donald and Tina would have their own challenges, but perhaps not the ones you may be thinking of. After Donald Driver and his wife got married, he told her he didn't want to have kids. Now, I don't know if this is a conversation they had beforehand or not, but Donald felt that way for a reason. He didn't have the best relationship with his father, nor his stepfather, nor his grandfather either. Really, I mean, his childhood scarred him, which is so real because when some folks think about having kids, they don't consider the emotional and physical and financial and mental and spiritual responsibility that comes with being a parent. Now, Tina told him he might change his mind. And he did. By the time they hit 2 years of marriage, in March of 2002, they learned that they were expecting, but sadly, the worst happened. Tina suffered a miscarriage. And while Tina cried in the hospital bed, Donald went in the hospital bathroom and broke down too. Months would go by and a new season of football would begin. One night after the team dinner, he returned home, and as he was getting in bed, he saw a pair of baby shoes and a card. Tina was pregnant again with their rainbow baby, and the next summer, their son, Christian, was born. Now, almost 2 years later, their family grew some more, and they had a daughter named Christina. Donald felt like with these two, their family was complete. But it wouldn't be until September 2011 when their third child, a little girl named Charity, was born. One thing that stood out to me about their household is that he said it was important for him to do all the things that Tina did as it related to the upkeep and maintenance of their home, as well as helping with the children. Donald said, quote, "I try not to add any burdens to her life if I can help it." That's a what? A good man, Savannah. So with that being said, as his decade-plus professional football career was nearing its end, another opportunity came up that would take him away from his family for several months. You know what that was? In January 2012, Donald Driver was approached to do something that would take him away from his wife and kids for several months. With football, if he would be gone, it would be for maybe a week or two max, right? Like, that would be if the team were playing 2 games in one area in consecutive weeks, and it just made sense to stay out there and then fly back home. But this would be different because this opportunity was participating in the 14th season of Dancing with the Stars. He'd have to go to Los Angeles while Tina and the kids stayed at home in Dallas so it wouldn't interrupt their school year. Once the family gave their approval and blessing, Donald headed west. You might remember that he was matched up with Peter Murgatroyd. Now, though Tina gave him the okay to go, honestly, she was upset that he was leaving. She didn't want to be away from her man that long, and she missed him. She also couldn't deny that Peter was a beautiful woman, so there might have been some sneaking suspicion that he would fall into temptation. Now, Donald promised her that that wasn't anything to be worried about. Later, she came out there with the kids and was able to attend some of his practices and to see that there was absolutely nothing between Donald and Peter. Because y'all know how the show goes. The dancers are encouraged to have sexual chemistry with each other, and for some, that can appear to be very, very real on screen. Now, that trip helped ease her fears, but honestly, Donald said if he wanted to entertain a bunch of women, then he, quote, wouldn't have gotten married. He said, quote, "I never gave myself the opportunity to give in to temptation. If a woman would flirt with him, he would let them know that he was proudly married." We hear about so many athletes, celebrities, and notable figures that slip into the draws of lust. So to see how much Tina means to his life, like the woman he attributes to saving him from a path of destruction, is just, it's so, I love it. He said, quote, "It's Tina to the final whistle." I know that's right. And side note, if you're engaged to somebody who loves sports, you might want to add that to your vows. Or if you're already married, put it in the handwritten note in your anniversary card. You're welcome. Well, Donald went on to win that season of Dancing with the Stars, and he celebrated that with his family, like he celebrated the win of the Super Bowl from the 2010 season. He would go on to retire from the Packers after the end of the 2012 season concluded. Now, he could have continued to play if he wanted, but he determined to leave on his terms, so he did. Now let's fast forward to current day. Donald and Tina's kids are older, of course. Their oldest, Christian, is playing football at Penn State. Their oldest daughter, Christina, is a senior in high school, and their youngest, Charity, recently turned 12. And as for Donald and Tina, they celebrated 23 years of marriage earlier this year, and he continues to love her out loud for the entire world to see. I love that. So all runners, that concludes the love story of Donald Driver. I hope you enjoyed learning more about his life. I didn't know anything about him beforehand, but honestly, I really enjoyed his story. And the love and respect he has for his wife is just truly to be admired. So if you're interested in Donald's life, I'd highly suggest you read his autobiography, Driven, From Homelessness to Hero, My Journeys on and Off Lambeau Field. His life story is also a play that is coming to the Marcus Center of Performing Arts in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called Dream, Quickie Dream, written by Gloria Bond Clooney. The show runs from October 6th through October 29th, so if you're in the area, I would suggest you check it out. And the show is actually for all ages, so bring the kids as well. Now, the links to these 2 resources, plus the others that I came across, will be linked in the notes below. I hope you enjoyed this week's I'll Tell You What. What did you know about Donald Driver? I want y'all to tell me in the comments. Also, as always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and leave a podcast review wherever you get your I'll Tell You What stories. Don't forget to check the links in the notes below or in the bio if you want to help support the show, grab some merch, or donate a coin or two. If you do so, please know I thank you. Now, next week, we're going to continue our football series with a look at the love stories of a certain Heisman winner. Any guesses? See you in the pews.